Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WTF1 podcast, Azerbaijan Grand Prix edition. I told Katie to start doing that drinking motion when I did the intro because product placement.
It was a proper like, oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
Oh,
hi.
Just drinking from my WTF1 mug.
Oh, yeah. How is it? How does the drink taste? Just a little bit better? Doesn't matter. Let's talk about Baku. We've got Tommy, the WTF1 founder, and Katie, our product placement WTF1 editor. And we are very excited to bring you this podcast where I thought this was going to be a bit of a boring one. I genuinely thought sort of midway through the race, as I said in Internet's Best Reactions, that it was a bit of a tame Baku and a bit of entertainment, wasn't it, Baku? And then it just all kicked off at the end. But of course, we will get to that. 3-word race reviews. Actually, before then, big shout out to our Team WTF1 members watching this podcast live. Saw 5 minutes of just bants before we went live. So you've missed out on some serious... No, it was just us setting up. But fine, it's live. They're enjoying it. 3-word race reviews. Here we go then. Giuseppe _Olivotti. Seb is back. Joel 1 Coulon. Pirelli messed up. And Matthew X. Well done, Baku. Yeah. No, I'd go with... Yeah, I mean, Seb is back. I think, we'll talk about his amazing performance. I don't want to, jump straight on the absolute, conductor of the Sebastian Vettel hype train now that he's had one great result. But at the same time, it was very, very good. And he really did perform, didn't he, guys? So I'm sure we will talk about that. But overall, those 3-word race reviews summed it up quite nicely. And Baku did well again, didn't it? Well done, Baku.
It was, it delivered again. Last year's wasn't great, but 2018 and 2017 was crazy. And it looked like it was going to be a fairly normal race. Like you say, it wouldn't have been the worst race if it had just ended with Verstappen winning. But
no, not for you anyway.
Well, we wouldn't have had that crazy Baku excitement, and then everything just went crazy. And to be honest, I can't even believe that they decided to just have a 2-lap sprint race at the end, which was rather wild.
It was amazing. I mean, you said there last year's race. Obviously, we didn't have an Azerbaijan Grand Prix last year because of COVID. Yes, I'm going to correct you there. But no, I know exactly the points you're making. I think we got to the point where the very first Azerbaijan Grand Prix, or the European Grand Prix as it was known in 2016, was a little bit of a snooze fest, and it was new on the calendar and lots of fans weren't sure, didn't think it was a great addition. And then we had 2017, 2018 that were absolutely bonkers races. 2019 was a little bit of much the same of 2016, but 2021, what a race. That was amazing. And I'm so glad somebody put well done Baku as their 3-word race review, because we couldn't not.
Yeah, well, I want to challenge that, Katie, slightly. I wouldn't say what a race. I still don't think it was a great race. There was just so much drama and jeopardy that caused a lot of headlines and, tire failures and stuff. I would argue that it wasn't a great actual race, but the storylines coming out of it were quite enormous. Do you want to bounce back on that, Katie? Or, I don't want to just cut you off.
No, it's fine. I think the first half of the race was a bit, not boring, but, processional. And then after Lance Stroll had his tyre failure, it sort of all went off from there. But yeah, I suppose you could argue that the race itself wasn't brilliant, but there was still a great mix of strategy calls and lots of overtaking battles, which is something that we haven't seen through some of the races this year. So I might stick with it. Yeah,
it's not a 2016, 2019 vibe. Definitely not. But I don't think it's either the 17 or 18 of how good they were, but it's somewhere in the middle. And as I said in Internet's Best Reactions, I feel like our expectations are just slowly creeping up as fans now, and we're expecting bangers every single week, and we won't get them. It's just not going to be the case, is it? But yeah, there were a lot of overtakes, and Baku, just that straight is just gorgeous. I love it. It's so long, and it just, for some reason, you'd think that with it being such an enormously long straight, the moves would be done really quickly, but it seems as though they kind of lose a bit of time, don't they, in the last couple of corners, and then it's almost a perfect amount of length, that straight, to allow for some pretty decent fighting into turn one. Wouldn't you agree, Tommy?
Yeah, they need it because, like you say, the two 90-degree turns definitely doesn't help, and the castle section and all the twisty stuff that separates the cars normally, but then, like you say, you've got that massive straight. Yeah, it was a great finish as opposed to a great race, and even just a dramatic finish. You can't get any more dramatic than that, really.
Netflix is whetting their taste buds. Tommy, 3-word race review.
So similar to what we've just been discussing, really. Mine is an emotional roller coaster. And this is about not just the championship fight, but also mainly the championship fight. As we know, despite, being called a Hamilton fanboy on Twitter, I am a Verstappen fanboy. But yeah, the end of the race was just absolutely wild. When Verstappen's tyre went, I'm not going to pretend I wasn't absolutely gutted and fuming, because, it really did feel like, I think we've mentioned it a few times on this podcast, that, well, one, Hamilton never DNFs. His last failure was 2018 in Austria, which is ridiculous. And we did say that, we don't want this title to be decided by a DNF or a failure. So when Verstappen's tyre went, of all the people whose tyres could have gone when it was on, it had to be, the guy leading the championship was going to win the race, pull out a bit more of a lead. And you just thought, oh my God, like that could literally be the title defining moment. But then it changed again with Hamilton, and there were so many stories throughout that race. You had like, oh, Verstappen's out, but now Vettel's on the podium. And then it's like, oh, well, Perez could win this now. Oh no, Hamilton's going to win it now. Oh no, Hamilton's off. It just, all the action just was condensed into those crazy last 5 laps. And I'm amazed that they actually went on and just thought, let's have a showdown. Why not? 2-lap sprint.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the time the times that they would stop it is when the length of the race, they've got too far into the day and there's fading light, or the conditions are adverse. We don't usually see, I can't think of one where they've red flagged it and gone, nah, CBA, there's a few laps left, but it's dry, it's light. There was no reason not to. And I guess Michael Massey has that option, doesn't he, to choose whether or not to continue the race, how to continue the race. And fair play, they had to red flag the race, and I'm glad they did it that way. I think a lot of Max Verstappen fans would have preferred it if they'd count back and given him the win. But
still don't know what would have happened with that, because technically if it was a red flag, it counts back, and then that would have been very farcical if Verstappen had won, despite being the one that caused the red flag. So there are a lot of decisions to make there, for sure, and I think they went for the right thing. And especially because, Lewis Hamilton made the mistake, and and then it kind of equalised the championship a little bit in terms of nothing happening between the top two, which is crazy to think that Hambot Vert, none of them scored points. I mean, Valtteri Bottas, I will have a go at you very shortly, my friend. So you might want to turn off your podcast device. Anyway, I think it was certainly an emotional roller coaster. I completely agree, and it was just, as you say, it just felt like Max had just almost lost the championship there and then with such bad luck. I think they did actually say, wasn't it, his team engineer came on the radio a lot earlier in the race, obviously when he was on the hard tyres, saying his left rear was the one that was getting a little bit hot. I feel like they've said something about reduce the slip and things like that. So there were like little elements. I know that Red Bull said there was no warning of the actual failure, but clearly that for some reason that left rear was getting a bit more strain than others, which they wouldn't really have expected. But interesting stuff. And I'm glad it ended that way, because we continue on to France with nothing really changed.
It's going to be hopefully more leveling of the standings by obviously having Verstappen and Hamilton not scoring points. I'll be honest, when Verstappen crashed, I was absolutely raging. I was so angry at Pirelli and the fact that they had taken away what could have been a well-deserved victory for Verstappen. Obviously, he started in third and he fought his way up. Obviously, Hamilton's pit stop being a bit slower did hinder his race a little bit, but it looked to just be a well-earned victory. Another one in the bank makes things more exciting. So for that to then just be taken away from underneath his feet, I'm sure everyone was super angry. Unless you're a massive Hamilton fan, then you're probably quite happy. But in terms of actually continuing with a 2-lap sprint race, at first I was quite skeptical, whether that was because I just wanted Checo to get the victory, because I felt like I wanted at least Red Bull to have some good story from this weekend. And also it just seemed very quite a sudden decision just to be like, okay, we're going to red flag it and then we'll just go racing again for the 2 laps. But after watching that 2-lap showdown, I completely changed my mind. So I'm glad that they decided to do it. And wow, what a final 2 laps. It makes me not like mega excited for sprint qualifying. I'm still interested to see how it goes. But after seeing that, and obviously we've had lots of discussions on this podcast about how nobody's going to risk anything and all this kind of stuff. I mean, Fernando Alonso is looking like he's going to be the sprint qualifying king with the 4 places he took in the 2 laps there. So yeah.
Was it 4 places? Oh,
from
Fernando.
10th to 6th.
There was so much carnage. You didn't even really see that, did you?
It's actually the shortest kind of sprint finish we've ever had after a red flag in F1 history. So it's very rare that they would, like you say, red flag it and then 2 laps to go, not just say, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Point. Even with the light. But I do think there's definitely something nowadays. You've seen it in NASCAR, and I feel like Formula One is definitely going the same way, where they want to put on a finish because, you know, it is very much a show nowadays.
It's very Americanized, isn't it? In some ways, you know, having that sort of thing. I think if, you know, as you say, if it was back in the day, they would have just, you know, shut it off and it would have been game over. Well done, Perez. So I don't mind it because obviously it comes out with, you know, loads of storylines and it feels better for a driver to actually win the race rather than it being cancelled. It's like, you know, it's like a football match stopping at 87 minutes because someone gets injured or something. That's a very terrible example, but you know, it doesn't feel the same. You don't hear the final whistle. You don't see that crescendo of everything going on. So I was a fan of it, to be honest, because it kind of throws up that uncertainty that we all know and love. So question from _Scott Elder. The fight for the Drivers' Championship has been so close. Verstappen's tyre failure and Hamilton's lockup cost them both so much potential point swing. Could we be looking back at Baku at the end of the year saying that's where he lost the title? I think we can only realistically look back at Baku and say that someone lost the title as if Hamilton doesn't win the title, because Max could have done nothing. You know, there was no warning. He didn't, as far as we know, he didn't drive to a certain, you know, he didn't overdrive and make his tyre blow up. That was just complete bad luck. Hamilton, on the other hand, you have to argue that as much as Toto doesn't want to call it a mistake, he turned on a switch to turn off his brakes, basically. So for people that didn't know or haven't seen, it's basically he touched a magic button, which basically made him lose, was it rear brakes and only had front brakes, or was it the other way around?
The brakes,
only front brakes work.
Yeah, like
so it puts the brake bias all the way to the front. So he had hardly any rear brakes, and essentially that's why he locked up straight away, carried on, and obviously lost all the positions there. So for me, that is a mistake. As much as it's an accidental thing and you just knock a button and whatever, but at the same time, that's a very rare mistake from Lewis Hamilton that we don't ever usually see. So for me, Lewis can look back at Baku and say, yeah, that's maybe where I lost the title, but I don't think Max could.
No, not now. I definitely think if Hamilton would have, if Hamilton would have gone on, could have even quite easily won the race. You know, he got an amazing start.
Oh, it was done, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you know, it was signed, sealed, delivered if it kept it.
And yeah, I think you'd look back on it. Like I said earlier, it would have been a shame if it had finished like that, even if Lewis had come second and it gets to the end of the season and Hamilton wins the title by under 20 odd points. You'd think, oh, that tyre failure in Baku that Max had when it was, you know, I think Webber summed it up as well, how much he felt for Red Bull. That he says, you know, like Red Bull did the perfect race. They got their cars into 1-2. They did a 1.9 second pit stop with Verstappen. They got Perez over Hamilton. And the only bit of the car they don't design is the tyres, and they let him down, which that's why I'm sure Christian Horner will be fuming. And actually a bit of spice, if anyone saw it, was Jos Verstappen was replying to everything on Twitter about Pirelli with angry comments, which was quite tasty. Like an angry dad. It's just like, this is unacceptable. So yeah, that was quite...
what a joke to one of the tweets that I saw. So
yeah. Like, you say this all the time, like the social media manager designs the tyres, and like, sorry. But yeah.
It was a huge disappointment, as we've already touched upon. But like you said, if it was the case that Verstappen's tyre blew and then that was the thing that decided the championship down the line, then obviously that's massively tough. But with Hamilton's little error, although like we said, it was an accident and accidents happen, but it can still be pinned down to Hamilton knocking a switch on his steering wheel. It now could be that is what Hamilton has done to decide the title down the line. So yeah, it's very odd to have both of the title protagonists out in one way or another, especially in the same race. So I'm glad that they've both come away with no points. I'd much rather it be that it remains the same and we can go into France and there's more of an equal ground for this competition. But either way, not good press for Pirelli. And unfortunately, we've seen it here in the past with, tyres delaminating and stuff like that from running over debris. I mean, Valtteri Bottas lost a win here a few years ago when his tyre just blew up as he was going down the same straight. So it's something that's happened before. And I think Sebastian Vettel said that in the drivers' briefings and stuff before the weekend, it wasn't discussed as a potential worry or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate. And like Tommy said, this is the one part on the cars that they can't really have much control over, is they're given the Pirellis as a set and told, this is what you can use, race with them. And then that's what cost them a very important victory. So
yeah, and of course Pirelli came out and blamed debris. They didn't say it was anything wrong with the tyre, did they? So obviously that argument, I'm sure, will continue on. There's arguments, I'm sure, from both sides, and there's data and things that we don't have access to. But I know that Pirelli haven't exactly been the most forthcoming with other tyre failures we've seen. I don't think we've really ever had an explanation from Silverstone 2013, to be honest, as to what happened there. So obviously there's lots of conversations that happen behind closed doors and we don't hear everything that's spoken about, but it's just not good enough to see things like that happen. You can't have tyre failures with no warning unless there's literally a knife in the tyre, then fair enough. But clearly there was no warning for Red Bull. And, they were saying that Hamilton had a cut in his tyre, didn't they? And but then they don't know where that was picked up, do they? And Hamilton did run wide at turn 1. So maybe he got his cut in his tyre completely offline, which is fair enough. I don't know. But yeah.
Something that's quite different with Baku as well, being a street circuit, and you guys have been to Baku, so you'll be able to talk about it more. But the fact that it's literally located in the middle of a city centre, and there are trees that often, cover the outside of the track. And I'm going to mention Formula E, but in Formula E, that's a quite common thing. And we've had it before where they've literally just chopped down entire trees, which doesn't sound too good for the environment for a championship that's all electric, but they've literally just de-leaved these trees because they just throw so much debris, whether that's little branches or twigs.
Wasn't there a branch, right at the start of the race that Verstappen and Leclerc had to avoid? Ran over the curb. So yeah,
they'll do their best to try and clear it up with the little road machines and stuff, but there's only so much that you can do during the middle of an actual Grand Prix.
Well, I guess there is a chance that it was debris, but I guess the thing is there's no evidence to support either there was or there wasn't. Of course, there were moments in the weekend where there was debris on the circuit, but at the same time, usually debris, from my understanding, is that would cause a puncture that at least you'd be able to see it on the data. And that's the problem with Red Bull saying that, there wasn't any of that. We interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about one of our sponsors for this episode, Manscaped. Father's Day is just around the corner, and nothing says I love you, Dad, more than a world-class trimmer. You heard that right. The Lawnmower 3.0 from Manscaped is the best body hair trimmer on the market. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and just launched their Performance Package, which is the perfect gift for your dad this upcoming Father's Day. Well, one of the things included in this new package is the Weed Whacker Ear and Nose Hair Trimmer, which is waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. So what are you waiting for? Get 20% off and free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code WTF1. Right, let's get back to the podcast. There's a question from Team WTF1 member Frederick Jessen. Isn't now the time to introduce mandatory 2 pit stops for every race when looking back at this weekend? It will take the danger away from going too far on the tyres and introduce another element to each races. Another way would be for Pirelli to make a limit of how far the teams can go on each tyre component, but just feel that it would Pirelli doing the strategies then. I guess B is somewhere in that sentence. But I just feel like Pirelli would be doing the strategies then. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of having it being mandatory as such, because it's almost forced entertainment in some ways and kind of limits creativity from some teams that might want to push a 1 stop in a very obvious 2 pit stop race and things like that. So mandatory 1 stop, fine. You have to do that in dry conditions and go onto a different tyre compound. 2 pit stops, I think, is a little bit forced. They need to focus on making sure the tyres are safe rather than having this, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's a scary. I mean, Stroll's incident was the scariest of the lot because he was a really sketchy corner, and I've never heard a driver on the radio so genuinely scared about being sat in their race car. You could hear him saying, "Get me out of here, get me out of here!" Like, because if you've ever broken down on the motorway or something, and you stood on the side of the motorway, and that cars are doing 60 miles an hour, and it feels ridiculously fast. Imagine 200 miles an hour. You don't want to be sat there, the car's going so fast past you, and you're at almost like a blind corner. So he's lucky no one was there, really. As for doing the 2 stops, I guess the argument is that you could say that Red Bull and everyone really, after Stroll, there was a risk. We even tweeted about it saying, will the teams want to change tyres now? Because we've seen Stroll did 30 laps on the hards, wasn't it? Yeah, hard tyres, and they exploded. And everyone else had to do more than 30 laps, and Verstappen got to 33 laps and they exploded. So the teams will never want to make an extra pit stop, will they? And then they can just say, oh, well, Pirelli, for God's sake. So I get it from that side that it would force teams to not do it, but then you get to the point where you can't mix up strategy. But then at the same time, if they, we said it before, we don't like 1-stop races, so I personally wouldn't mind it, because as long as you used every compound of tyre, I think we've mentioned that before, to stop there being 1-stops, because that's when the races are a bit dull. Because the thing with Pirelli is we want 2 stops, but Pirelli don't want to build tyres that are going to explode like they used to, because it's horrendously bad press, like what happened in 2013 and 2012 and everyone complaining about the tyres. So I guess that would be a decent solution where we can get better racing, more pit stops, but then it's the always the debate of, is it too artificial or whatever? But personally, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I think we've got to be careful, or Formula One and Pirelli have got to be careful that we don't just have so many sets of rules that, like you say, things just become almost forced and unartificial. By having 2 pit stops, yes, it could spice up strategy, but there are already so many rules revolving the tyres, like the qualifying rule and stuff like that, and the fact that you have to do a mandatory 1 pit stop and all that kind of thing, that I just worry if we added more problems and things down the line that it would just get unnecessarily confusing. And at the end of the day, it should just be down to Pirelli to create a tyre that's not going to just suddenly explode. So although maybe introducing 2 stops could spice things up, I think the bottom line, the first port of call needs to be Pirelli to sort their stuff out.
Well held back there, Katie. Didn't want to get us demonetized.
No. Stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you, Katie. So Tommy's wrong. But yeah, I think I just like the way you disagreed with him. It was really fun. But yeah, because also then within those rules, you have to make sure then that X tyre goes so long in the race, because obviously mandatory 2 pit stops, but then you'd have to go 20 laps on a set of tyres or whatever. And then it just, so many rules get kind of, it's going to be difficult, I guess, for a casual viewer as well to keep up with, pit stint length, and things like that as well. So yeah, I think Pirelli, just sort your tyres out, mate. Right, my 3-word race review. Big opportunity missed. Now, I guess it's kind of tying in with Tommy's in a little bit, the emotional roller coaster of the championship, but it's a huge opportunity for Lewis Hamilton, in my opinion, to have extended the championship lead. Of course, he made that mistake. We've spoken about it. But we don't know how this season's going to go. In my head, I feel like Mercedes will come good and be faster than Red Bull by the end of the season. But if you look back at the trends of previous years, Red Bull have come strong by the end of the year every single time and then not been quick at the start. So for me, this could be a massive opportunity for Lewis to have actually not secured at least 18 points. He literally said in the pits, it is a marathon, not a sprint. And he was like, turn the brakes off. Let's do this. Yeah, exactly. And yeeted it straight off the track. So yeah, massive opportunity missed. A question from Mr. F1 fanboy, my burner account.
That is your account, yeah.
No, it's not that. It would be Leclerc fanboy. Why didn't Hamilton be a little less aggressive into turn one when he could have waited for the long straight? Look, he's a racer at the end of the day. He's saying he's not going to take any risks in the sense of, I'm not going to absolutely dive bomb it at Perez into turn one. But he got an amazing start. So I can understand why he's going for it. And to be honest, I don't think he was being necessarily aggressive. And that's not what I'm saying the opportunity is missed about. The opportunity missed is the fact that he's pressed a button to turn his brakes off. Like, that move is done 99 times out of 100 in Lewis Hamilton's career. Easy peasy. He's got the inside line. He's ahead of Perez. So calling Hamilton aggressive, it wasn't, in my opinion. Like, he was just great off the line, had the move and turned off his brakes. So that's the mistake. That's the opportunity missed for me.
Yeah, I agree that the error, like you say, came from the switch. And I saw a comment that was like, oh, you can't just accept that Hamilton was at fault. I personally am saying he's at fault because he pressed this switch that he wasn't meant to.
It's an accident.
Whether it's an accident, it's still a massive mistake. And it's caused a huge error that, like you say, it looks like Red Bull, especially Baku, there's absolutely no doubt. Look at what Bottas was doing. We'll go into it later. That Red Bull, and where Perez ended up winning, that Red Bull was the best package easily. And yes, we've had Mercedes where it looks like they're better at a maybe more normal track, like your Spains and your Portimaos or whatever. But that was Red Bull's race to win. And then Hamilton somehow found himself looking like he could get a minimum 18-point championship swing on Max Verstappen on a track
the tears in your eyes,
where they were where they were 11th in FP2 or whatever, and Verstappen should have easily won the race. So yeah, it's a massive error. I wouldn't say he was overly aggressive because, like you say, he got the start. He was already at the inside because he got an amazing start, and he's not going to then back out and just slow down because he just hit the brakes at a normal time that he could have braked, but he didn't have any brakes because he pressed that wrong switch.
The more I think about it, the more I'm just literally still gobsmacked that
yeah, I can't believe it happened.
Like, it's genuinely like still feels like a dream, like pinch me kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, even if Hamilton hadn't done that like good start and passed Perez and would have gone on to win, even if he finished second, he would have been 14 points ahead of Verstappen and 21 points ahead if he had won. So it's a difficult one, and like, I am concerned at the way that Toto Wolff addressed this whole thing, because at the end of the day, in black and white, Hamilton flicked a switch, he changed his brake balance, and as a result, he went off in turn one. Like, he was very humble afterwards. He said it was a humbling experience, and he, was really sorry, apologized to all the boys and girls at the factory and that worked for the team around the world. And he handled the whole thing pretty gracefully, which, to be fair of Hamilton, sometimes he has he can badmouth the team, like we saw in Monaco, for example. It's very rare, but it can happen. So I thought, well done, you've taken it with a pinch of salt and that kind of stuff. And then Toto Wolff, when talking about it, he was very adamant that, no, this wasn't a mistake. You can't call this a mistake, all this kind of thing. If you then compare how Toto Wolff was about Valtteri Bottas in Monaco, saying that Valtteri was partly to blame because he didn't pull into his pit box enough and all this kind of stuff. And, oh, God, it's so... And I don't want to be one of these people that's like stirring the pot and,
stir away.
Clickbaity and all this kind of stuff.
Stir away.
It's coming across that Mercedes is being so toxic at the moment. And especially with Toto, he's slagging off Christian Horner in the media and calling him a windbag. And the whole atmosphere at Mercedes is just so uncharacteristic. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if like that's a small part to play as to why we're watching them really struggle. Obviously, they had a shocker in Monaco, they've had a shocker in Baku, even worse. We thought Monaco couldn't get worse, and then we turned up here. And it's very unusual. And I can't even remember what the original question was about. I've just gone off on one.
Just keep staring.
I'm just, oh dear. But I think Hamilton should have gone for it. I'm just seeing the question. He was aggressive enough, and it's the whole thing of like, if you're a racing driver and you don't go for a gap that doesn't exist, doesn't make you a racing driver, whatever the quote is, or something like that. So I think Hamilton was absolutely fine with his standing start, but it's just unfortunate that he knocked this switch. Whether they'll somehow change it so it doesn't happen again, or whether it's just like a case he's got to keep that in the back of his mind so he doesn't do it again, I don't know, but very weird.
Yeah, because I actually watched an onboard of him coming off the line. He had his hand in a very odd position. Like he had his left hand there and his right hand over like the steering wheel, so clearly changing something. And obviously he's pressed the wrong button and, Windows XP is closed down. So like it's just, it's not aggression. I think going back to your point about Hamilton being humble, I mean, if he'd turned around and started blaming the team, that wouldn't have gone down well with anyone because it was literally his mistake. So, like, that is literally in the dictionary. That is what it is. It will say, the example will be Lewis Hamilton pressed the wrong switch under mistake. If you look it up in the Oxford Dictionary, honestly, I promise.
It goes back to the famous guy that said, is Formula One driving today too complicated with Tommy, buttons on the wheel?
So I haven't told you this, but the video we're putting out live today, which is all about what happened. I've put some little nuggets in, in the script, good. So you'll enjoy that.
WTF1 Team WTF1 exclusive. That okay.
And also probably podcast exclusive, depending on when this goes out. The F101. Anyway, moving on. Ronan Hugh. Lewis seems to be making more and more mistakes this season. Do you think this is because of the added pressure from Verstappen, or is it that he has always been like this? It's just that we notice them more with a close championship battle. Yeah, I think Lewis is a bit of a hothead. Like, it's been very easy for him, in years gone by. And to be honest, anyone's going to be hot-headed when they come out of an F1 cockpit and been going 200 miles an hour for 70 laps. Well, not quite. They do break. But I think, Lewis is obviously got used to winning a lot, winning every championship, and he wasn't exactly perfect against Rosberg either. Of course, he did have some mechanical problems which cost him the championship that year, but I don't think really he's not really used to having especially a fight against another team, and that's something completely new to him. And let's not forget, he's getting older as well. Like, he has experience, he's wise, but the things like the mistake in Imola, for example, is the one that stands out for me as a mistake that he probably wouldn't be making if he was battling Bottas for the championship, because he wouldn't have that urgency, I don't think. You can't track, you can track your teammates' progress quite a lot because you know what car you're going to be driving. But when you're racing against another team, you don't know if Red Bull are going to be quick in the next race or if Mercedes are going to be horrendous or whatever. So I'm not expecting to see a lot of Lewis mistakes because they're not enormous. Like the Imola one was just going onto a slight bit of a wet patch, and this one was accidentally turning off a switch. It's not like he's piling into the back of somebody. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's going to be refreshing, and I think Lewis is going to have to almost relearn some things about actually having to fight for a championship. And Max, on the other hand, he looks championship ready. Like, without a doubt. I know he had a little crash in practice and whatever, but, we'll get over that.
Tommy jinxed him.
Yeah.
No, but genuinely, like, he was faultless in Baku.
I can admit this now. I'm not proud of it. But on the lap, Verstappen's puncture happened. I loaded up Photoshop and started making the graphic to say that he'd won the race and how he'd, finished first and second, and then boom, the tie goes. But you're right. It's one of those things where you look at Verstappen, and we've been talking about, I think it was after Portimao, the mistakes in comparison, really, they're such small mistakes. But if Hamilton made a mistake, I'm trying to think. So, like, going into the pit lane in Monza, I know it was a bit of the team and whatever, but realistically didn't matter. He was always going to win that championship. It doesn't matter. But now these things are absolutely massive when these little things happen. And to the point where after Portimao, we were analysing the fact that Verstappen runs slightly wide and got a track limit warning deleted, and whether he's kind of bottling the World Championship, because it really is these fine margins that are going to decide it. But you're right, Verstappen's looked really quick, and now it seems like, especially in the last 2 races, that Hamilton's the one chasing that car. It might change again, like you say, Mercedes, especially somewhere like Paul Ricard, maybe it's the Red Bull that are chasing, but Verstappen's the one that's Baku, finishing. Yeah, exactly. Verstappen's the one that's finishing. Well, he's finished first or second in every race apart from the tire explosion, and he would have won that. And it's crazy to think that if Hamilton hadn't got, maybe a bit lucky with the red flag caused by Bottas and Russell, and didn't get his lap back, he could be 30 points behind in the title by now, which is crazy to think.
Dream, isn't it?
No, I want it to be close.
Yeah, you want it to be close, but I know who you want to come out on top. To be honest, I'll support Max. We need to keep Schumacher's record intact. Carry on. Sorry, Katie.
I think all of this kind of stems back to 2016 and the fact that Nico Rosberg won the championship that year. I know that there were, issues with Hamilton's side of the garage, and it might not have been what some people decide is like a fair, equal fight to the finish. But at the end of the day, Nico Rosberg won that championship, and I wouldn't be surprised if that knocked the wind out of Hamilton's sails quite a bit. Obviously, Rosberg made his life a lot easier because he retired and said, I'm done. And they had to bring in Valtteri Bottas as a replacement. As much as I like Valtteri Bottas, and he is a good driver, I'm not going to sit here and say he's terrible, he shouldn't need to be in F1, like anything like that. Like, Valtteri Bottas is a good, solid driver. He has days where he's absolutely on it. And although not the same level as Lewis Hamilton, like, he's a reliable set of hands, which is why he's still there. But for the longest time, well, since 2017, Lewis Hamilton has known that he has a teammate who isn't going to challenge him for a championship. Like, that's a fact. Like, I don't think Bottas, well, I say it's a fact, no, I think, but Bottas would never be able to challenge Hamilton for a championship. That's my opinion. Maybe that's not a fact, but I'm sure most people
watch
agree
Bottas
with that.
Win the championship next year.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be with Mercedes next year. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So then he's maybe got a little bit comfortable, who knows? And then for Max Verstappen, who we've all said, I think Hamilton and Max are the 2 greatest guys in Formula One at the moment. And perhaps there's a little bit of me that thinks Max is that better driver, whether that's the youth and the aggressiveness that he's got compared to, although Hamilton's got experience and wisdom, as you said, Max is just that little bit more aggressive. He's got more, like, he's willing to risk more and all that kind of stuff. And finally, he has a Red Bull underneath him that is going to give him that championship opportunity, which he's not had before. And he's going to take it with every part of him that he can, to take this championship. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton is quaking in his Tommy Hilfiger boots or whatever they are. And, he's thinking, oh, well, yeah, now I actually do have a bit of competition coming my way. And like you say, these tiny little errors, which normally, if it was somebody further down the grid making them, probably wouldn't even be picked up. But because it's Hamilton and Verstappen, all eyes are on them. And these little errors are going to be what defines the championship when we get to Abu Dhabi in December or whenever it is.
I feel like we're going to have this conversation after every mistake, whether it be Hamilton or Verstappen. It'd be like, oh, is Verstappen the bottle job? Is Hamilton the bottle job? Like, it's going to change throughout the season. Because, we've had these races where it's like, how is Hamilton winning in this car? And Max is like blowing it. And then now it's completely flipped the other way. And my God, it's good for the championship, isn't it? It's going to be,
and it's good for content.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Lewis has said to the media before that he relishes the competition. Now he's got it. Let's see if he actually does relish in it. And I also think I saw a feature on, was it Sky, where Hamilton's been quite open with the fact that he's been battling some demons as well, like, and mentally and things like that, he's been struggling. So those sorts of things can carry over to driving. So. You have to be of a perfect mindset to really get the most out of your car. So, perhaps there's some struggles there as well, which obviously Lewis will only know fully. We interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about our final sponsor for this episode, Beer 52. I think we can all agree that we are owed a good summer this year. 2020 was a write-off, but 2021 has optimism and opportunity, and fingers crossed, a gorgeous summer spent with friends, family and frothy beer. In this spirit of cautious optimism, our friends at Beer 52 are offering a free case of craft beer, specifically curated with those balmy summer evenings in mind. Their Summer Hits case will feature beer from some of the best small batch breweries in the world. All you have to do is go to www.beer52.com/WTF1 and cover the £5.95 postage, and they'll deliver 8 delicious craft beers to you. Not only that, but if you order before July the 13th, you'll get 2 extra beers totally free. Remember that you have to be over 18 to buy. Every month, Beer 52 visit a different country and carefully curate a case to be sent to their lucky members. If you don't like dark beer, you can choose the light option. It's easy. Each case also comes with the award-winning beer magazine Ferment, as well as a tasty snack to enjoy with your beer. If it's not for you, you can pause or cancel at any time. Just go to beer52.com/WTF1 to claim your free case of 8 craft beers. Don't forget to claim by July the 13th for those 2 extra free beers. Remember, over 18. Let's get back to the podcast. Right, moving on. Katie, 3-word race review.
Well, my 3-word race review is about
Look, you can
Sergio
see the
Perez.
smile on your face.
I am so happy. So my that's not my 3-word race review, but mine is Curse is Broken, which is relating to the fact that Sergio Perez won a race for Red Bull Racing. Woohoo! I mean, as people who listen to the podcast regularly will know, I really like Checo. I think he's a great driver. Him going to Red Bull was like the perfect decision, I think. And he's kind of proved that, because it's the first time a Red Bull has won that wasn't Max Verstappen since 2018 Monaco, which was Daniel Ricciardo. And he's kind of put an end to these talks that second Red Bull seat is a poison chalice. I'm not going to get ahead of myself here and say that, you know, Perez is going to challenge Verstappen for the championship, because I think that's not going to be the case. I think he'll just happily settle in for that second place. But I'm just really happy to see someone else winning in that Red Bull, because we have had since, you know, we had Gasly in that seat, and then we had Albon in that seat, and it's just been bad press after bad press, and the team only favours Verstappen, and if you get that seat, you're never going to win a race. And so it's just nice for Checo to have come in after 6 races. He said in the media, it'll take me 5 races to get used to the car, and then on his 6th race he won. So I mean a little bit helped by Verstappen's tyre blowout,
given
but
the victory,
minor details.
No, absolutely. I mean, the record books will only say first, won't it, at the end of the day?
So true.
Sergio Perez was brilliant this weekend. You know, the qualifying wasn't ideal. You know, he started 6th, so it wasn't the best in terms of Saturday pace. But come Sunday, his race pace and the moves that he made on that first lap were crucial for him to be able to be right in the mix and just take advantage of anything that goes on, and mostly put pressure on Hamilton. And his pace was right there with Max, to be honest. Maybe a 10th back in pure pace, maybe 2, because obviously Max did stretch that gap out and held it quite comfortably. But that's all that Red Bull need is Sergio Perez in the mix. That's all they've ever needed from Gasly, from Albon, and now from Perez. They've never asked for them for the driver to beat Max. That's not what they want. Max is their golden child. But yeah, it was so refreshing to see Sergio. And as you say, he asked for 5 races. The 6th race, he was on the pace. You can't deny it at all. I hope it continues and Baku isn't an anomaly. That's something that we'll find out as we move through the season. But it was so promising to see Sergio literally holding back Hamilton and, being on pace with Max. It was awesome.
Yeah. The thing is, not that it's irrelevant in terms of obviously him winning is an incredible thing for him, amazing celebration for the team. But even if he hadn't obviously won, he'd already done everything he needed to do. And we'd be having the same conversation if he'd have finished second to Max Verstappen. He is exactly what Red Bull needed. Now, yes, it was a bit of a crazy race, but without going on to mention Albon or Gasly, but you had these crazy races last year and 2019 where you thought, all right, it's been absolutely bonkers. Max has won, both Mercedes are out, and the second Red Bull's finishing 8th, 9th, 12th, 15th, whatever. Perez was there in second, ahead of Hamilton. We've said it so many times. We said it, obviously, we're critical of him after Spain, where Hamilton, he was so far back and messed up his qualifying on a difficult track to overtake that he allowed Hamilton to be able to pit where he wanted. And we said, look, you need to be Bottas. And if anything, they swapped this weekend. But Bottas even worse. But yeah, Perez was there, even better than doing a Bottas, being ahead of Hamilton, stopping Hamilton from getting past, getting close to Max, picking up maximum points. You know, even, like I say, even if he hadn't won and Max had finished the race, that's more than what they wanted. You could say even him finishing third is an improvement, but the fact that he was going to bring a 1-2 home for the team, and then obviously the fact that, and I'd even go as far as saying that, you know, Perez, I think Hamilton, quite easy for him to say, but Perez moving over, I know it's such a small little thing, but the fact that Perez is there and he's at the front is causing Hamilton to make a mistake. I know it's such a reach and a tiny little thing, but if he wasn't there and Hamilton's leading into turn one, fine, he's not pressing that switch and he's fine and he doesn't need to worry about anything. So this is exactly what Red Bull want. They need him to basically be causing Hamilton as much grief as possible, and it doesn't really matter if he's 2/10 off Max or whatever.
Exactly. It's the dream scenario if Sergio continues that way. Phil B82 asks, with Perez finally getting in the mix, can you see him causing problems for Hamilton for the rest of the season while helping Max? If he has the pace that he showed in Baku for the rest of the season, Red Bull will most likely win the Constructors. Bottas is in the mud at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. He needs to pick his game up quite a bit. We'll get onto him shortly. And I think we've pretty much covered Phil's question. The next one is Didier Lewin. I know it's early, but if Perez keeps performing, do you think Red Bull will keep Perez for 2022? Or do you think they will want someone from their own Red Bull program in that seat? I don't think they give a toss who is in that seat as long as they're winning, to be honest, for want of a better phrase. Perez, you know, if he does well for the rest of the season, of course, the relationships will build with the team. And why would they change it? You know, they wouldn't get rid of him if he's finishing, you know, second to Max every single race or whatever. So, yeah, it makes sense if we continue to see the trend of form from Sergio that they'll keep him, because they're not gonna go, okay, Alex, you've watched Sergio for a year now. Come in. Let's see what you can do. That's not. It's just a risk.
Albon's like, oh, you wanted me to finish second. Oh, right. Sorry. Tsunoda is not ready at all. Let's be honest. And Gasly.
Oh, that's.
Yeah. Sorry. Was that the hype train just coming?
Sorry. Oh, you're
the conductor of the hype train slamming on the brakes.
Sorry, a McLaren ahead of Red Bull in the championship. That was your one, wasn't it, from that podcast? Tsunoda's definitely not ready. Max needs someone. If Max is going to be a title contender, he needs someone in the second car that can deliver. Gasly, like a Red Bull Junior, isn't going to do that. Gasly, I think, would be better if he got back in that car, but it's not going to happen for whatever reason. That relationship's broken down there, and I can't see him ever getting back to Red Bull. So I think they're going to keep him 100%, especially unless something goes horrendously wrong. He's already done better. He's won a race, got a podium already, and if he just keeps this up, then they're going to want to keep him as that kind of perfect, solid driver for Max. But I just wonder, kind of a bit like what you said about curse is broken, is this finally where the kind of narrative ends of like, oh, the car's only made for Max and no one can possibly drive it? Maybe that's where that kind of ends now, because Sergio is now up to speed and shown that you do just need an experienced driver that maybe doesn't need hand-holding, while they can focus on, like you say, Max, the golden child that's going to hopefully win the title for him.
Yeah, I can't see them getting rid of Checo for 2022, which would be famous last words, unless he runs off with Jerry Halliwell or something like that, which might cause rumble a few feathers. But I think going into 2022 with new regs, they're going to want somebody experienced, and Checo has that in buckets, and he's a proven race winner with the car, which is something that nobody before him, in terms of Gasly and Albon, has been able to do. So I think that will be the smartest option. But Red Bull are very indecisive with their driver choices. So who knows?
Yeah, I would have gone with cutthroat, but yeah. It's
could see Matt Gallagher in that seat for 2022.
I would last approximately 2 corners, so don't worry about that one. But yeah, as long as Sergio continues to show form, no reason to. But one race win doesn't secure him for 2022 either. So let's put it that way, because again, he didn't win it on pace either. That was kind of given to him, but he was there or thereabouts. So hopefully he continues on that run of form. Okay, speaking of someone who's absolutely not on a run of form, that is Mr. Valtteri Bottas, who, I mean, I think I actually tweeted during the race at one point, what is Bottas doing? Like, because he was doing precisely nothing the entire race. I watched an onboard of him, I think it was at the start of the race, and he looked like 0% AI on the Formula One game. Like, genuinely, he was getting passed left, right, and centre by about 3 or 4 cars. You see an Alpha go flying up his inside and all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And this is where we've said it before in podcasts, and it's finally happened. And Valtteri will be the one definitely quaking in whatever boots he's deciding to wear on this fine Monday. Is that now Mercedes are under pressure. Bottas can't be having these shockers. He can't be having a Turkey. He can't be having a Baku that we've just seen. He has to be there right with Hamilton. He has to be the one winning if Hamilton's the one turning his brakes off. But the fact that he did not score a point, despite Hamilton going off, letting everyone through, all the carnage that we saw, I'm absolutely baffled to look at the race finishing order and that Bottas finished 12th.
Yeah. Mick Schumacher finished behind him in a Haas, like the one place behind him in a Haas.
And he didn't have a problem. Even he didn't sound like shocked. He went Bottas in 12th. He was like, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, Imola, I thought was a one-off. We said here that we don't think he gets enough credit when after, finishing P3 and Perez was the one that wasn't stepping up, I guess. But that was appalling. That was a dry race. You can kind of say, okay, Imola, so tricky conditions, and Bottas has never been great in them. Same with Turkey, it was like a fidget spinner, wasn't it, in that race? So
fidget spinner, that's a good way of explaining it.
But yeah, he was absolutely awful. And like you say, him just getting passed left and right. The whole weekend, really, he arrived late. Katie's alluded to it a bit as well, like talking about the whole fact that Toto's there almost blaming him after Monaco for this mistake that he's obviously very annoyed at. Do you know if it's only he's turning up late, but I feel like that whole relationship is getting very sour. Apparently there was something as well where he wasn't very happy because it was his turn to get the toe in qualifying and he gave it to Hamilton instead, so he missed out on that. And I think it's just that kind of thing now where maybe it is similar to a Albon. This is just me spitballing, but do you think that Mercedes, like you say, Mercedes are now almost like what Red Bull, where they're the ones chasing? Maybe Mercedes now are putting all their focus on Hamilton and thinking we need to get Hamilton to get every single point, like Max Verstappen was doing, where he'd have all the attention on him and he was managing to finish third and second and win races. Maybe Bottas is, the meme where the person's under the sea when they're holding the person up and they're just kind of like, we don't care about you anymore. But I've completely changed my mind now. If he has another race like that, I can't. And the way the relationship is going, it does seem a little bit sour now. And I could see this being his last year with them.
George Russell to Mercedes 2022? Is that what you're saying, Tommy?
No, Pierre Gasly, because they tweeted it, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. One nice tweet. They're like, oh, he's going. Quite funny,
they tweeted Perez, Aston Martin, and Gasly, and only everyone picked up the Gasly tweet and photoshopping him in overalls. Oh my God.
Twitter, I don't know how it's a free platform. Quite funny, actually, in the live chat at the moment for our Team WTF1 members, Izzy Hollingsworth brings up that Lando saying on the radio that he was struggling to get past Bottas because Valtteri was driving so badly.
Making lots of mistakes, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Not good.
I mean, that's something, isn't it? The person in front of you driving so badly that you can't overtake them. It almost gives me that Mr. Bean grandma going down the stairs vibe. Anyway,
it is concerning. I mean, Mark Webber was talking about it on the Channel 4 coverage in the UK, and he was like, if you were on a plane, like he can basically compared Valtteri Bottas to being like on a plane, and all the alarms are going off, and you're kind of like nose diving, and you basically just want to abort everything. And which I was like, wow, okay, Mark Webber, you go off. But yeah, it's not good, is it? Like I was thinking maybe, you know, he's had some good races. He's finished on the podium 3 times this year in third. I think that was Bahrain, Portugal and Spain. And then Monaco was just really unfortunate luck with the tyre wheel not coming off. But then Imola was also a shocker. This weekend was a shocker. And we can't be having these conversations about a Mercedes number 2 driver. It's just not the done thing. You just shouldn't be happening. And it does come across, like I said earlier, that whole inter-team relationship is just, it's gone off, it's out of date, it's souring, it's just not nice. And it's really unusual for us to see that as fans, because normally it's, you know, apart from maybe 2016 where you had the Rosberg versus Hamilton, other than that, it's always, you know, paradise, and there's never any problems at Mercedes, and we always, you know, come out best from every single weekend. And now there are all these things that are popping up, and yeah, I don't think they'll keep Bottas for 2022. I don't know who they'll get in, but I think the big question that lots of people are asking is Valtteri actually going to last the season, which remains to be seen. You think they will? Yeah. If he has another, say, like from now until Hungary, he finishes another, let's say, 3 races at the points, you think that they'll really keep him on?
Yeah.
You do?
I don't. Well, I firstly don't see Bottas having that many more shockers over the season. I feel like it's more of it's just in his blood that sometimes he'll have an absolute shocker in over the course of a season. But at the same time, he also has some great races. You know, when we go to Russia, I'm sure he'll win by 3 laps. But you know, that's just Valtteri for you. I don't see them doing a mid-season swap personally, unless it is absolutely shocking from Bottas. But you know, I don't think they want to do that, because it just changes the inner workings of the team, and then that could almost upset the team even more, because of, you know, Hamilton and Bottas work so well together that they set the car up so beautifully, and it's so harmonious. So no, I don't see that happening. But who knows? Bottas, he's had an absolute stinker. He needs to bounce back. What do you think, Tommy?
I personally think that he won't get replaced mid-season. Doesn't seem very Mercedes. However, if he has 2 or 3 more races like that, and the relationship nosedives like the plane Webber was talking about, as much as this kind of, it seems to be going now from, oh, Valtteri's a great team player. Oh, he's made a mistake in coming into the pit lane. And then now it just seems, I don't know, it's just, there's something not right the whole weekend, and people have said that he just seemed very off. Maybe he knows he's not there next year, and that this is the weekend he's been told, and he's driving really badly because he's not in the right headspace. You never know. So we'll find out.
I mean, that would be pretty stupid from Mercedes to tell your second driver when you're in the heat of a championship battle that you're not going to be driving for the team next season, because that's only going to affect their constructors and drivers championship bid, right? So I can't see that they would have done that unless something's really kicked off, and, you know, Bottas has slept with someone's wife or something, you know, as Katie kind of alluded to, running off with Jerry Halliwell or whatever, you know, that sort of stuff. I don't quite think that's going to happen, but yeah, let's see. Let's not jump on the Bottas bashing bandwagon as much as we all are on it right now, bonking him. That sounded weird.
Oh dear.
You get what I mean. Let's see what happens with Valtteri. I'm not writing him off just yet. I am writing him off for the championship because he's 6th in the driver's standings, but he has to do his job from here on in. Moving on, Haas drama. There was some interesting shenanigans on the last lap of the race. Question from Team WTF1 member Nileshi Rawel. Would Mazepin be penalised for what he did on the final lap against Mick? Lando got penalty points for the red flag incident, but there was no endangerment of any other driver. But what Mazepin did with that sort of aggressive defending could have ended very badly for Mick, or would FIA just overlook it? After watching said on board of Mick Schumacher going, well, basically in the slipstream of Nikita Mazepin down the back straight towards the finish line to end the race, Nikita's just jerked right. A Max Verstappen-esque at Spa, really. And yeah, I mean, that's penalty worthy every day of the week, in my opinion, especially with the aggressive nature and the late nature of it as well. Mick Schumacher with that reaction, if not, he's mounting the back of Mazepin at about 180 miles an hour, which is just frightening to even think about that. So for me,
did you watch Mazepin's on board as well, or
no, I haven't.
Right. Yeah, it's just
why? What have I missed?
Just Well, you can kind of know what he's done. He's just gone. As soon as Mick Music's gone, yeah. So it is 100% the Verstappen. Well, as it was referred to, the Verstappen move of you just turn the wheel, one aggressive movement to the right. Like you say, he's done it, hasn't he? In hope that Mick backs out, but it's so dangerous, especially on a straight like back.
Yeah, that's literally the description of dangerous, and yet Nicholas Latifi gets penalty points for a complete misunderstanding on the radio where he carried on and went past the incident. Of course, that can also be deemed as dangerous, and Lando as well, speeding up under red flags, he gets penalty points. Why is that not penalty points? Like, that is literally danger. Do they have to crash? Mick Schumacher literally said, is he trying to kill us? You know, that's how angry he was, and of course his very calm engineer came
Gary
over.
Gannon.
Although he wasn't very calm, old Gary. He was like, okay, yeah, affirmative, yeah, copy, yeah, got this, I understand, yeah, please stop talking.
Yeah.
So clearly he knew that Mick was about to pop off.
So the FIA have pretty much signed off on Baku, so it won't be given penalty points or investigated. Like, that's that. So, and
check has cleared, clearly.
Yeah, I think.
Well, they've just gone home, so they're like,
they're like, it's getting late, guys. We should head off. But no driver has been given penalty points in the last 12 months for dangerous driving of any kind. It's only if you cause a collision, and even
Ridiculous.
Then that's like 2 points. Which
I don't understand.
I get where the frustration is coming from, especially like Latifi, who was given the instruction to stay out. You know, we all heard the radio, stay out. Reminded of the Hamilton radio from a few months ago. But with that, there are things in place to ensure that the drivers do go through the pit lane. The boards that are on the side of the track will have said so. So it's not just down to Latifi's team radio to tell him, mate, come in through the pit lane or whatever. So there are reasons why he's given a harsh penalty. Same for Lando Norris. You know, you could argue that he was in the pit lane and then decided last minute that wasn't the right thing to do and moved out. So penalty points are a really weird one. I'll be honest, like, I'm the first one to hold my hands up and say, like, I don't quite get why some things that I think are a team failure, like Latifi's team radio, I think that deserves to be a fine for the team, but they'll hand out penalty points. But then something like dangerous driving is just like, oh, sorry, we didn't see that.
I'm looking at your fantastic article, Katie, where you've listed all the points, and I'm looking through, and my understanding, and this is not the case, clearly, looking at your article, because for me, penalty points, you get 12 and you get a ban.
Yeah.
So surely the penalty points are, you've done something dangerous, keep doing it, keep being dangerous, you're going to be banned. And so I'm looking, like Giovinazzi, for example, he got 1 penalty point for failing to slow under the safety car during a race. That's a penalty point because it's dangerous. That totally makes sense to me. Lance Stroll got a penalty point for leaving the track and gaining a lasting advantage for passing Gasly. For me, that's not dangerous.
That's not danger. Yeah,
it's not danger. But then Stroll gets 1 for 2 for causing a collision with Norris during the race. I get that. That's fine because he's caused a crash. It literally just seems to be like they're making up these penalty points as they go along. I don't understand.
Are you trying to say that Michael Massey isn't completely in control and knows exactly what he's doing?
The one that I don't like was the Spanish Grand Prix this year, where Pierre Gasly got a penalty point for being out of position at the start of the race, just by a little margin. And he got a penalty point for that.
How's that dangerous?
Yeah, it's not dangerous. But you could argue, I mean, look, I know we've seen moves like that before. I think even Lando did a very sketchy one in, was it Spain, on Carlos Sainz, and he got a black and white flag. That's the kind of thing I'm like, okay, fair enough, give him a penalty point, because it's kind of like, don't do that again. You've got a warning now because you're basically on your way to a race ban, and you're like, don't do that. But giving like, Nicholas Latifi, stay out, stays out. And then they give him 3 penalty points, which is a quarter of the way to a race ban.
That's not even his fault.
And it's not even his fault.
It's your license, and the team are messing up. Like, there should be a team fine or something, not a penalty point.
Team penalty points.
Because Mazepin's, I'm looking at Mazepin's one, like, he's got one for impeding Lando Norris during qualifying. That's not a penalty point worthy, but him.
That's less dangerous.
It should be for dangerous driving. I don't see why it's the way it is.
Melina Raptaki in the chat's just clarified, and something I didn't actually clarify about Lando getting the penalty, not for speeding up under the red flags, it was for not pitting. But of course, I guess speeding doesn't exactly help his case. I
think that's where he made a big mistake, really. Yeah. I think that's probably where they had a dim view of it, because it was like, don't do that.
But clearly they're just not taking any sort of mistakes or whatever. They just go, right, you didn't pit, penalty points. So yeah. Okay, then, away from the Haas drama, let's talk about Sebastian Vettel, Mr. P2. What a drive. I mean, I haven't been probably the nicest about his performances so far in Aston Martin, and I'll be the first person to say that he's proven me wrong in the sense of a great performance. You know, P2, his pace was great. He went long, didn't he, in the first stint, and was kind of on the pace of the leaders, which was surprising. And then I think he picked to P7, and was looking like he was going to score pretty good points anyway before the chaos. And then obviously everything happened, and he was the only one, wasn't he, with the fresh set of soft tyres, and just absolutely made it work in the last couple of laps. Of course, Hamilton making that mistake. I almost thought for a second
he could win.
Sebastian Vettel could have won that race.
Slipstream Perez on the line or something.
Literally, like with those soft tyres, I was like, maybe you're telling me there's a chance.
Well, that's what amazed me most. You know, qualifying 11th, you think, well, he's not going to be anywhere, but he genuinely had really good pace, even.
And that strategy saved his race as well, didn't it? Well, not saved, but helped him to run in clean air, overcut a lot of people, and he got right in the mix.
We said in the watch along when he was very angry, wasn't he, about finishing 11th? And we're like, Seb, calm down. You get to choose your own tyres. And it worked a treat, because he was the only one that was like, well, and Stroll, I'm going to do something different here. I can start on whatever tyres I want, go along into the race. And he executed it absolutely perfectly. I mean, it's second race in a row he's done this amazing undercut strategy. And like you say, even without the safety car, obviously P2 is flattering because of the fact that Verstappen and Hamilton went out. But even without that, he was genuinely brilliant, and would have, I mean, even if he'd come fourth or whatever, you'd just been like, that is an unbelievable drive to get that Aston Martin into fourth place. It was such a good performance.
It's been like amazing to see Aston Martin and Sebastian Vettel both working so well together. Obviously, we got off to a bit of a bumpy ride at the start of the season, 15th, then followed by 15th, and then 2 13th place finishes, but then Monaco 5th, which obviously earned him driver of the day, and then 2nd in Azerbaijan. And although, you know, it's very easy to be like, oh, well, this is the old Sebastian Vettel we know, he's going to go on and win the World Championship next year, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Who's saying that?
There's quite a few
Sebastian Vettel fans.
Oh, dear.
When Lawrence Stroll was there on launch day, like, we are Aston Martin, we will win.
Take over the world.
Yeah. I think people are like, oh, wow, Aston Martin are going to be amazing. And then,
that's when I wasn't so positive, when it was the 215s, 213s. And to be fair, he wasn't performing very well. Didn't he pick up like 6 penalty points or 8? What's that? Whatever.
5 in Bahrain.
5, that was it.
5 in Bahrain. Bahrain. He couldn't have had a worse start.
No.
He's turned it around.
Turned it around. So fair play to him.
Ben Prague, is Vettel back to the old Vettel again? I think it's too early to say that, because we've had 2 very differing races. Monaco, of course, is Monaco, and you get track position. It was a great strategy from the team as well, and it was a great performance from Vettel in terms of pace. same with Baku. You know, he had great pace. He was, Stroll obviously crashed out, but Lance was having an okay race considering he was started from the back. As I think for me, the comparison is, as long as he's beating Lance reasonably, easily, then I think Vettel we can say that he's back to his old self. If he's getting beaten by Lance, that's when you kind of have to question it a little bit.
Yeah, the last two races, one of the, I guess, those races where, his experience has come through and is able to execute two strategies that essentially got him two fantastic results. So it's too early to say, oh yes, he's four-time world champion, Red Bull dominating every single race. And even if he was that good, he's not going to be able to do that in an Aston Martin because the car's not there. But it's a massive confidence boost and a much needed one after, like we say about the start, when he punted Ocon, got loads of penalty points. We're thinking, surely this can't happen again. Like, where's Seb? Like, what's happening? And then two absolutely brilliant results, and hopefully, the start of a bit of confidence boost and like building back up. And it's only gonna, hope would get better. And it's like it's going to be good for Vettel to, when you get the rule change, you'd hope that Aston Martin, especially with all the money that Lawrence Stroll's pumping in, are going to be a good team. So, if he gets his head in the game now and sorted and is delivering a lot better, then totally makes sense to then he's going to be good in 2022.
I think, well, the whole Baku podium in general, but specifically having Seb on the podium is going to be one of my 2021 highlights of F1. I just think that was such a nice story. But I don't want to rain on his parade or rain on the Seb parade, because like we said, he's had two really good results, but it's keeping that consistency going, because it would be a great shame if we had these two amazing results and then it just goes back to being like no point scoring and all like that kind of stuff. So fingers crossed that he can keep it going and that there's more podiums down the line. But like we've said, that midfield is very close and it's going to be quite the challenge. But hopefully if this old Vettel is back, he can do so.
Yeah, he'll need some chaos. It's not as if Aston are the second fastest team or whatever. They'll need some crazy races. But I think that's the beauty of the midfield. You've got Aston coming strong now. You've got AlphaTauri starting to get in the mix as well. Even Tsunoda has got a few people back on his hype train now. And then of course you've got McLaren and Ferrari as well. So it's going to be really interesting. Formula 1.5. I think it's more like Formula 1.25. I feel like they're a little bit closer than they have been before, and that just hinders the front runner strategies as well. So it's really interesting to see how that all unfolds. Right, ABCDF1 time. Play the jingle.
Now it's time for
I'm going to get the chat open.
It's going to be lit.
I'm going ham early, pun intended.
Oh, we are going ham early. Well done, Tommy. Nice. Okay, so ABCDF1 time. Let's start. Well, actually, before that, if you want to vote, WTF1.com after the race, you can vote. Give us your opinions, because we've had far too many. You don't have a clue. You don't watch Formula One. You don't understand the sport. Well, make your own votes and let's see, because then it's a general consensus and we know if we're really off the mark or not. Right. Yeah. Lewis Hamilton. Well, it was a good performance up until he turned off his brakes, in my opinion. But that turning off the brakes is quite a big mistake. Yikes. And he literally finished 16th. So it's going to be a D from me.
Yeah, I was going with the same as Leclerc last week, an E, just because it's a massive mistake that cost him big.
I'm going to go D, because I feel like the mistake that Leclerc made was like he literally crashed his car into a barrier, whereas this is just more of an accidental flick of a switch.
But Hamilton had an escape road.
That is a good point. I just think
I know what you mean.
Leclerc overdrove, and I'll be the first to say that. He overdrove. He was attacking too much. Hamilton just whoops the daisy, and it happens to the best of us.
Toodaloo, as the Dutch commentator said. I don't know if you saw that.
But yeah, I think I'm going to go with a D, because it was he ruined any chance of a victory or decent points by that mistake. But up until that point, he did do a good job because the Mercedes just didn't look very strong this weekend, which is a very weird thing to say in Baku, but yeah.
I know, we all came into it thinking the Mercedes were going to be 1-2, and look how stupid we look.
How was your prediction?
No, I don't want to even go into those. Okay, so D from us, Hamilton gets a C from the fans. Fanboys. Valtteri Bottas, E.
F.
F, you're crashing in and up, you're upside down, fam. Come on.
Really?
Yeah,
he finished behind 2 Alfa Romeos in a Mercedes.
Yeah, I know, and that's an E is a horrendous grade, Tommy. F is when you've forgotten how to drive.
I'm still saying F because he literally forgot how to drive.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to spare some sort, trying to give him some good press. Give him an E.
I'm loving it. Just let Tommy go off on one. It's great. I'm going to also go with an E.
Thank you.
Also,
you, Tommy, you grumpy old git. Sorry, Katie, Karen.
Oh, I was just going to say that, yes, it was a shocker. Don't get me wrong. But there are also some components like Hamilton having the better rear wing and all that kind of stuff that might have affected things. So I won't go F. But yeah, E. I mean, E. You still don't want to get an E, but
no, you don't. You don't want to get an E. E's not good by any stretch. There's a lot of E's and F's in the chat, and the overall rating from the fans was an F as well. So there you go.
IMCP.
What's that? Max Verstappen. Then I'm gonna go with an A.
This is tricky, right?
Yeah.
Star.
And I kind of have to skip on to the next one here, just because for justification. He deserves the same grade as Perez for me.
Yeah.
And people are gonna be like, oh, well, you have to give Perez an A star. Then it's like, well, you have to give Verstappen an A star because he literally would have beaten him. So for me, it's either both A's for Verstappen and Perez or both A stars, and I can't decide which.
Okay, well, I've gone for A star whilst Tom is mulling over it and had all the time in the world to mull over it in the last hour of this podcast. Katie, what's your thoughts?
A for both.
A? You really are grumpy today, aren't you, Tommy?
Oh, no. I'm going to go A star for both with the same...
me and Katie are being all positive and
we're like, yes,
we've got
love,
a grade
happiness.
above every single one rather than Tommy has. Okay, so Verstappen gets an A star and Perez gets an A star. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
Cool.
Lando Norris, he had a bit of a shocking start. Had obviously that 3-place penalty after not coming into the pits and during the red flag. Had a bit of a shocker, finished P5, which was a pretty good comeback. He was quite happy. I think it's a B.
I thought you were going to say A then, and I had to be like, B. And you're like, oh, you're so grumpy. Yeah, I've gone for B as well, because in my opinion, it was a bit of a mistake. He could have had another podium there if not for the mistake. So, but still, good drive. So yeah, I've gone for B. Yeah,
I think there was a lot more possible from Norris that race had he not had the 3-place grid drop, which at the end of the day, FIA and the stewards decided that was his fault. So yeah, I'm going to go with B as well, but could have been a much better result.
Could have been. Yeah, I think he kind of rued a bit of a missed opportunity, to be honest, because I think he felt like he should have been a bit more in the mix there. Daniel Ricciardo crashed in quali. People were obviously complaining about Perez starting from 6th and us giving him an A star. But,
thank you.
But he won the race. So he won the race.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo, it was not the best performance from him. Was it 9th in the end for Danny Rick?
Yeah, qualified 13th.
I think it's a C. Tommy's going to go
on, Tommy,
for a D.
See, the thing is, I probably should give him a C, but maybe I'm just expecting too much. It's just not there this year. So I'm like, it's one of those things where, when someone's not improving, do you just keep hammering him, or do you say, okay, well, actually, this is where he is now, and it's not as bad as he has been? Because if that was the first race of the season, we didn't know about his struggles, I'd be like, D, why is he finishing 9th when Norris is kind of finishing 5th and way ahead of him? Yeah, I'll go with the C. I'll be nice.
Wow.
Oh dear.
It's
Sorry,
a very
Danny
low
Rick.
C.
I'm going to go for a D for Daniel Ricciardo.
Whoa.
I'm the grumpy one now.
I'm changing it back to a D because
you are okay. I just think
Tommy's like, oh, if someone else is going to be grumpy, I will be too. Again.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be grumpy now. Okay.
Grumpy friends. Yeah. I don't know with Ricciardo. Like, if you look at all the people who have switched teams for 2021, Sainz podium, Vettel podium, Perez podium, Alonso. He's not really switched teams, but he's new into it. But like Alonso's performance this weekend, like he outdrove that car. He did a sensational job. And like, I'm not normally the one to be dishing out the Alonso praise. I think he's a great driver, but I think Ocon, as I've said, this is my 2021 prediction. Ocon is the better driver, but he, excellent job from him. Don't start.
Better
all right.
Driver.
A better driver.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not the point of this mark. But Ricciardo just seems to be floundering. He's just not getting it. And I don't know if maybe he just needs a bit more time or...
Sorry, I've just read...
Oh my God, there's a B!
What? What, you're giving Ricciardo a B?
No. A wasp that just flew in my face. So the fans' grade for Danny Rick was a C. I went for a C, and you pair of bunch of angry F1
mobs.
fans gave a D. Charles Leclerc, he started on pole position, did you know?
How?
It's
That
something
feels
that
like
I also
4 months
forgot.
ago.
It genuinely does. It's crazy to think that I had hope that Charles Leclerc was going to win the race. In fact, I was so hopeful that I said I'd buy a banana suit and shout my phrase in the middle of London after I'd had a few drinks. Regretted that immediately when I woke up the next morning. So I genuinely thought Ferrari may have been able to somehow get the victory, but obviously that was pretty quickly squandered, wasn't it? It's a B. It's a B. It was probably a bit disappointing, to be honest, for him to finish P4 after all of that. Don't think it deserves an A, as much as quali was amazing. He had a bit of a, steady race after that, to be honest.
I've gone for an A, but I don't know. No, because he should have got Gasly, actually, shouldn't he? Now I'm thinking about it. Because I thought there's nothing more he could do, but I think a podium was on if he'd maybe been a bit more aggressive. So yeah, I'll go for B.
Yeah, I'll go for a B as well.
Okay, and the fans gave Leclerc a B. Carlos Sainz, he went down the escape road, didn't he, at turn number 8? Is it 8? The castle section's 8, I think.
Big mistake.
Which was huge. I think he finished P8 in the end, didn't he, as well? So, it's a C, I think, for Carlos. Not really that great, but still good recovery to get some points. And, just another little error creeping in for Carlos. The one that, the man that we've said that has been probably the best this season of getting up to speed, but he has got an error in him. We saw it in Imola. We see it again in Baku. Yeah, C.
C as well, yeah.
C.
Costly, I reckon he could have got some very good points, but...
Could have indeed. Next up, Sebastian Vettel.
F.
I want to go with a B.
Yeah.
B.
I think B. Yeah, to be fair, he should have won the race, had fresh soft tyres.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. We've got 8,000 comments here.
Of course, it's a resounding A star. In fact, well, I'm assuming you're also going to say A star, because if you're not, then you may as well lock your doors.
A star, yeah.
It was, in fact, and the fans, of course, gave they gave Leclerc a B. The fans gave Sainz a C. Not sure if I said that. And Sebastian Vettel, the fans gave an A star, and it was 93% of the votes was an A star, and 7% were an A. So no one gave Vettel under an A. And 93% an A star, which is the highest ever for ABCDF1. So I'm actually getting choked up. Right, next up, Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll obviously had that tyre failure, crashed in quali. It's got to be a C.
I've gone for maybe a B's too.
How are you giving him a B? He crashed in quali and he was just doing.
I forgot he started last. He was just trying something, wasn't he? Unfortunately, when the safety car came, it was because of him. Which he needed, but he wouldn't have been anywhere near Vettel. So C.
People in the chat are saying A for Vettel. Chris Murray, Din Cops, George Walker, Svilnik. A.
Oh.
It's an absolute disgrace. Sorry, carrying on. Lance Stroll, yeah, C? Katie?
Yeah, I think a C, considering its whole weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And fans gave him a B.
That's quite,
maybe it was a sympathy thing.
No, maybe, yes, I don't know. I mean, a sympathy B. Pierre Gasly finished P3. I'm going to... But he managed to hold off Charles Leclerc. It's like I don't know if it's an A star. Because obviously he was given the podium because Hamilton bottled it. Joking, by the way, Hamilton fans. He didn't bottle it. He just made a mistake.
He just made a mistake.
Like, because if he would have finished P4, would I give him an A star? Probably not. I'd give him an A.
I think it's close to an A star personally, but
okay, A star. Let's be nice. Gasly, have an A star.
I've changed. I've been the one that's flipped during the podcast. Like, I'm so happy. A star because I think he almost got pole as well if Tsunoda had dropped back and given him a toe and sacrificed his lap, which would have been pretty wild. So starting fourth and finishing third in AlphaTauri, despite, like you say, the two challenges going out, still pretty damn good result. So I'm gonna, A star.
I am really stuck because I feel like I should give him an A star because he did make it on the podium, but then he would have dropped positions had Verstappen and Hamilton finished.
I've changed my mind. I'm going for A because I gave
Verstappen an A. Oh no! If I gave
Verstappen an A star,
then it's an A star.
Yeah. Oh, I just go A star. Just be generous.
Come on, be nice, Tommy.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, there was a bit of happiness coming out.
Love and peace.
For
goodness sake. You founded grumpiness, more like. Right. So no, you're not grumpy, really.
What did Gasly get from the fans?
A star.
Oh, okay.
The fans gave Gasly an A star. Yuki Tsunoda had a better performance this time round. Finished P7. He was actually a little bit raging. That man is the angriest person. I mean, we're joking about Tommy. No wonder Tommy likes him because they're just a pair of angry people.
Did you hear his radio after the race?
Oh, no.
His best Formula One finish. And he was like, I didn't know what I had to do here.
Yeah, and he just, I don't understand and all this. And I'm like, mate, just let it.
I didn't like him telling his engineer to shut up. I thought that was, I know loads of people are like, oh my God, he's so sassy. I'm like, no, that's just rude. I'm sorry, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of his team radios either, to be honest. I feel like it does come across as a little bit rude.
If that was like Mazepin or Raikkonen or someone like that giving that team radio, people would be like, oh God, he's so grumpy, he's so rude, or like Alonso.
Oh no, Kimi could say anything and everyone
true.
Cherish him.
That's true. Okay, that was a bad example. But you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know if it's because Yuki, like I think it was in IBR yesterday and somebody shared that the cute little, is it like a Pokemon thing? I don't really know. It's with the knife.
Kirby,
And everyone's like, oh look, he's so cute, but he can be really mean. I'm like, well, he shouldn't be like that anyway. If I was on the phone
next time
to
we interview him, we'll get you involved, Katie, as well.
I'll have a pop at him. I'll be like, listen here, pal. Sort yourself out. Yeah. Oh dear.
Waving the finger. Okay, so I'm going to give Tsunoda a B.
Yeah, B. That's exactly the race he needed, to be honest. Despite him not being happy with it, he needed, because at the end I was like, please don't crash. Like, finish seventh and just take a seventh place and build on it. I know he's probably fuming because he lost like a couple of places at the end, but yeah, B.
I'll go for a B, but I will keep in the back of my mind that he did crash in Q3, which is not ideal. So it's a low B.
Okay. All right. We'll allow that as I plug my headphones in. Tsunoda also got a B from the fans. So there you go. Fernando Alonso. Well, he had a bit of a stonker. He kind of came out of nowhere and finished P6. Didn't really see much of it, to be honest. I feel like we missed quite a bit of the midfield action, if I'm being brutally honest. It's an A. He finished P6. Lovely work from Fernando.
It's almost an A star, but I think I'm going to go A.
A star. Right. How many A stars are we going to give out today? Tommy, can you make your mind up as to whether you're going to be
whether I'm grumpy or not? I just think that Alpine wasn't very good and how he managed.
And Ocon's the better driver as well, right, Katie?
I think, okay, A. A is fair, I think. Awesome at the end.
I'm trying to figure out what I gave Esteban Ocon when he finished. Was it fifth?
An A star.
I think I did. And
an A triple star.
And that was when they looked strong. Oh no, when was it? Oh, I can't remember.
It was in Spain, wasn't it? It did well.
Yeah.
Oh no, Portimao.
Portimao, yeah.
Katie, come on, just give us what you think. What comes to your mind?
I would just give Fernando Alonso an A star for that last 2 lap.
Well, it doesn't matter. We both give him an A.
Okay, well, there we go. I'll just fill in the sheet.
I'm sorry, Katie.
That's all right.
And the fans gave him an A as well. Something. Yeah. Ocon. Well, he was. I mean, he didn't finish, did he?
So, no, he didn't. He
C.
had like 4 laps.
Yeah, I've got
C then.
C.
We'll just give a C. C and move on. Fans gave him a C. Kimi Räikkönen. He was just outside the point. No, he got 1 point. He got a point. He was 10th. So that's a B. Lovely.
B for Kimi, yeah.
B for Kimi, and the fans gave him a B. Giovinazzi finished outside the points.
I would have given him a B as well, by the way, babe.
No, that's fine. No, I assumed so. It's fine. Sorry, Katie. I thought I heard you say B. You clearly didn't. Giovinazzi, C. Are you happy with that, Katie? A C?
No, I want to give Giovinazzi a B.
Do you actually?
Yeah, because he came from 20th to 11th, and I think that's pretty decent. So I'm going to give him a B.
I'm going to give him a C because he pinned it in quali.
Oh,
yeah, that is true.
That's a good point. Okay,
came from 20th because he binned it. Oh.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
Stroll, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give him a C. I was just trying to be a bit like hype Gio up because I've seen so many comments of people being like, "You guys are so mean about Giovinazzi."
I'm sorry. I will hype Giovinazzi when he
does something good.
Raikkonen every
when he
single
does something
week.
Good.
Or
it's true though. I'm not going to just give him a good grade just because
Kimi
people
Räikkönen
complain on Twitter about him.
This bloke, Kimi Räikkönen, he's turning up for a race on Sunday and then probably getting blasted on a Monday at a party somewhere.
He's
he
older
doesn't
than
really
me.
care. Like, yeah, and that's saying something. So, like, he's genuinely, Kimi is like just enjoying racing in Formula One, and that's it. He isn't by nowhere stretch or imagination anywhere near the peak Kimi Räikkönen. If you can't beat Kimi in the sort of early stage of your career, you're not getting any hype from me.
No, so I agree. And so especially how Kimi performed against Vettel when he was at Ferrari. And then how someone like Leclerc performed against Vettel. I know you can get a bit, he did this against him, but you've got to be beating Kimi Räikkönen consistently to be a wonder kid and getting a B from me.
There you go.
World's grumpiest man.
That's what you're striving for.
Man yells at cloud.
That's on the bucket list. Okay, so Giovinazzi, C. Lovely stuff. George Russell, C.
C. Oh, Williams.
And
God's
a C from the
sake.
fans. Yeah, I know. Yeah, literally. Like, what is going
Dropped the ball.
And Katie's already written C's in for our Latifi grade, and that's what we're going to give him, a C.
Williams really dropped the ball because Haas leapfrogged them in the championship. And that could genuinely be the championship decided.
What, with that 13th place? Come on. No, someone's going to... Williams, as I've said before, they work in one condition. There's going to be at least a 12th somewhere, surely.
Maybe. But what I'm saying is it could be. And the fact that they go to a restart in the craziest race of the season and they need to be getting points, bearing in mind they both bottled it in Imola as well. And Latifi goes through the out the pit lane with the worst wedding. That reminded me of when we did our blindfold challenge and I kept saying to you right to mean correct and you were turning right. It's that kind of thing where you're like out, and he was like, out means stay out. What are you saying? And then Russell broke down before the start, which is bad times for Williams.
Not ideal.
Bad times.
Not ideal. So a couple of C's, really. I mean, maybe even D's. We should probably give the Williams guys just purely from not great. But anyway, Mazepin almost beat Mick Schumacher and then almost sent him flying. So I'm going to give him a D.
Yeah, D.
I think a D is fair.
And the fans gave him an F. Shock. And Mick Schumacher will give him a C because he beat Mazepin. And he was actually comprehensively beating Mazepin as well until the whole safety car red flag.
Head of George Russell in the title now, then.
There you go. That's something he can cherish, I'm sure. And he's beaten Hamilton, as has Mazepin in a race.
Wow.
So there you go. Right, predictions for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Let's go through these very quickly because I don't want to really linger on these at all. Mercedes back to being fastest. No.
Let's think about that one.
Well, let me think. How can did they top any practice sessions?
Back to being the
I finished
fastest.
11th and 16th in one of them.
Yeah, that's very true. Did Hamilton top Q1 maybe?
No.
He was P3 and Q3, I think. Oh, in FP3?
Yeah, exactly. So no. And Stroll out-qualifies Vettel. That went well. That's just my standard thing that I go for. Tommy, your two.
Mercedes 1-2, nope. And Vettel in the points. A lot of points. So that's 2 points, surely.
No,
that's half a point because you didn't say podium.
And I went for Ferrari double points finish. So that is a point.
Well done.
And then that sounded really came from the heart, that one.
Yeah. And
Ricciardo not in the points again, which I was close, but he got
close,
some points,
but no cigar. Yeah. Fans, 95 Moro, both McLarens to finish in the top 6. Nope, Dan Castell, Perez on the podium. Yeah, he was on the top step. Well done, Dan. And Marcaras, 97, a Ferrari out in Q3. No. Predictions for the French Grand Prix, the snooze Grand Prix. My two are 2 safety cars, at least.
Wow.
2 or more safety cars, just vibes. Come on. We need something for the French Grand Prix, don't we, really?
Safety cars, so, yeah.
Virtual or normal?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, how are you going to...
Well, we'll see. We'll see whichever one gives
what happens
point.
on...
And Perez at least half a second off Max in quali.
Spicy. Back to the old Perez.
Spicy.
I've gone for no DNFs and both Alpines in Q3.
Lovely.
Very nice. Katie? I've gone for a Lando top 5 finish and Alfa Romeo in the points again.
Interesting stuff. Andrew _Tyrrell 8, Hamilton Grand Chelem, which is what? Fastest in every session, quali and
no pole.
Pole fastest lap.
And lead
pole fastest lap win, but you have to lead every lap. So that's quite
That's okay. Interesting. Aniket P 73509728, AlphaTauri double DNF. And D. Selathambi, Ferrari will be back on the podium somehow. I mean, you didn't have to add the somehow there. Ferrari fans are hurting enough. Okay, then. That is probably...
That is the longest podcast
The longest podcast ever.
Is anyone even still in the chat?
Yeah, if people are still watching, they are. That we still have our Team WTF1 members here. So brilliant to have you guys in the chat as always. And for you guys watching on our YouTube channel or Spotify or wherever you are, thank you for watching and listening as well. Hashtag WTF1 podcast if you want to get involved with more questions, as well as us posting on social, asking for your questions. And give us 5 stars, a thumbs up, wherever you are watching or listening, as always. And Tommy, final thoughts?
Oh, I totally...
you thought I was outroing. I was outroing.
Oh, my word. It's been so long, I genuinely forgot about final thoughts, and you've absolutely sold me there. I genuinely can't think of anything. My head is empty from that.
Katie, final thoughts? Tommy, you can think of it whilst Katie's saying something. Katie, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is just remember how good these past few races have been when we get to France and it's a bore fest.
Tommy? Don't you dare say
France,
no.
Yeah.
Bonjour.
God, you are useless, aren't you? Right. Okay. Thank you to Tommy. Thank you to Katie. And thank you to you guys watching and listening as well, wherever you are. Make sure to check out our Camping at Silverstone experience as well, which is the WTF1 Clubhouse, which is WTF1.com/clubhouse. We can camp with us, and we've got all sorts of amazing things going on at the British Grand Prix. So please do check that out. If you fancy coming along, you can pitch your own tent or do glamping. And until next time, we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next post-race podcast. Will be in a couple of weeks, but we'll do a podcast before then. We'll do many podcasts. We love podcasts, and I think everyone loves podcasts too. Thank you. Bye.
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 I've just read. What? Oh my God, there's a bee.